So in the last video, I said that this video was going to be about the second part of the ST guide setup, but there turned out to be a few prerequisites I needed to get out of the way first, and mixing a couple of other things of NeoDesk into it makes for a really nice standalone video. So today what we're going to do is we're going to set up NeoDesk as an AV server. Doesn't sound very sexy, but it's going to make desktop experience much better. We're going to add a font selector to our ST, bizarrely enough. The ST didn't come with a font selector by default. And we're going to bling up our desktop treat, some new icons, and we're going to prettify again. What's an AV server? NeoDesk implements the AV protocol, and that was a protocol that was originally implemented by the Gemini desktop environment. Gemini consisted of Venus, which was the desktop, and Mupvel, which was a command line tool, and I think the AV protocol was set up so those two could be tightly coupled but still be separate applications. So what does it give you? Well, it gives you the ability to have an app on your desktop, and when you run it, only have one copy of that app run. So let me show you this. If I go into QED and I launch QED, I get the annoying message. Still haven't got rid of that one. And there is QED running. Now I'm going to run QED again. And as you can see from that message, we have two copies of QED running. This is not ideal. What we really want to see is that when we run it the first time, all right, we'll get that message. When we drop the second file on, it should just open it, which is what you would expect in a modern operating system. But pre-AV protocol, there was no way for the desktop to tell the app that something had happened. Now, the protocol also allows it allows the application like QED to give some information to the desktop to save away for it. Finally, apps can tell NeoDesk that they've updated the contents of a folder. What we're going to do is set the AV server up, and it's pretty trivial, but there's two things to do. You would think, wouldn't you, that you just go into here. So you go into, no, you don't. You go to NeoDesk. Come on, NeoDesk. Where are you? Go to NeoDesk. You go settings. Use NeoDesk as the AV server. We will go OK and save settings. You'd think that it's not. We have to do one other thing after that. But before we do that, I want to talk about this option. So this option says always prevent multiple instances. What that means is when you check it, NeoDesk will assume that every app that it's going to launch is AV protocol aware. So even if it doesn't declare that it is, when you drop a second file on the icon, NeoDesk will simply send it the path to load. But if it isn't AV server aware, it won't work. So it's a bit of a blunt force instrument, this. I tend not to run with it. But I'm going to save that. And I'm going to save my settings so that it remembers it next time. So the next thing we need to do to get this to work, or this is the last thing that we need to do to get it to work, is to tell Geneva. Or actually, no, we're not going to tell Geneva. What are we going to do here? We're going to Geneva. We're going to edit its conf file. And we're going to tell it what the AV server is. So we go set env AV server equals NeoDesk. And really, this isn't telling Geneva. It's adding this to the environment. The environment is a set of variables available to all applications that execute Geneva. And so the applications can know that there is an AV server in use and that it's NeoDesk. Save and quit. And then I'm going to pop in a reboot. Right, that should be it. We've rebooted, so let's try the basics. QED.app. Now, if I copy this in here, just open it. That, but marvelous. And it'll do it for multiple ones. So if you can see, I'll just find two windows open, two different files, one instance of QED. Now that is both going to save us memory, going to save us time. And if you notice, when you run it the second time, when you're dropping the file on it, it doesn't put that stupid can't find the clipboard folder message. So the next thing we're going to install is another usability fix. This is a font selection dialog. You would have thought font selection would have been baked into TOS, and it wasn't, or possibly provided with a later implementation like a GDOS, Speedo GDOS, etc. It was a requirement that came to light through usage of software, and it was implemented by a non-Atari third-party software vendor, and then it's used spread out across the industry. Just like the AvServer, it's implemented as a protocol. The protocol is the XFSL protocol, or the font selector protocol. And the implementation that we're going to use is one called Calvino. I've got the files for Calvino here on my gem.d drive. So installation is, as my American colleagues would say, super easy. We're going to drag Calvino into our auto folder. And then we're going to put the FSL overlay file in there. So what's the overlay file? Calvino is really, really well written. It's only 6K in size, and most of the logic is contained in this 56K file. So the idea being Calvino listens for messages for the FSL protocol. When they come in and it needs to surface the dialog or whatever, it loads the overlay, processes data, sends messages back, and then when the dialog is closed, Calvino will unload the overlay and free up that memory. So it's incredibly well written and efficient. Noticing that we have some hype files, let's just put those into our ST guide system. I have a feeling that the help will be in German. This is not unusual because so much of the best software for the ST, the freeware, shareware, postcardware apps, were all written by the Germans. They were just so awesome in this space back in the day. So just a quick look though, what we got. Oh, we got documentation with a K again. We're going to have to get rid of that. But we'll get rid of that probably when we go back to ST Guide in the next video. Font Selector Calvino, lots of stuff, but there's some documentation for it. But that's it for installation. So now what we need to do is pop in a reboot, and then we're going to add it to our sets in Xboot. Right, so here's our Calvino, and we're going to make it available on our productivity set. Right, so now double-clicking productivity to boot it, we should see a message coming up now saying the Calvino font selector is loaded. And now we can set some fonts. So there are only a couple of the applications that we're using at the moment that rely on the font selector dialog. That's QED, our editor, and ST Guide. Now, we're a bit limited at the moment. I've got to say this. I only have one monospaced font installed on my system. I should really get more, but that'll be in our next step of prettification. Load QED.app. And there is just our standard text page. Let's just move down a little. Right. So now if we go to options, we can go to font. And it'll load font selector. Current font is Monaco Mono, which is the NVDI default monospace font. We've got Baskerville, which we could set, or Franklin Gothic. I mean, Baskerville will be all right for a word processor or whatever. It should even be all right for ST Guide, but ST Guide relies on having a monospace font. But what we could do is we could just say, oh, let's try it in an 8-point font. I'll certainly get more information on the page. Is that legible to me? It is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into options on QED and save the setup, and then that's it. We've got a baked in font. Now I mentioned ST Guide. So we can go into ST Guide, and under extras there's a font option. Should be very familiar. Let's say we did want to have a look at Baskerville. 10 points. Okay. Now some things are going to look a bit out of whack already, I think. Yeah, because these triangles are expecting stuff to be. But let's just have a look at function overview. And this is where I think this looks okay, right? I mean, actually, it's readable. Refer it to the monospace font. Very good. But let's look at the toolbar documentation, and all of a sudden you will see that, well, that should be over there and that should be over there. So unfortunately, we'll need cleaner, better, lighter monospace fonts if we want to do this. One thing I want to point out is with these apps like ST Guide, which are a little less modern in ST terms, if we look at the font dialog, Up here it says that the font's ID is 5031. It's important that you should be able to find that ID out, because in this case, 5031, if you want to actually persist that, you can't just save the config, because ST Guide's not that sort of clever. But if you go into the ST Guide configuration file, you'll find an option a little further down where you set the font. Font 1, 10. So that's saying font ID 1, which is the system font in size 10. If we wanted to use our Baskerville font, we would say 5031, 10, and then we would save that. And then that would then mean post reboot, the font change will be still there. However, in our case, we're going to leave ST Guide well alone. And next time I reboot, it'll be back to where it was. It's time to address icons. Now, these icons you see in front of you are part of NeoDesk, and NeoDesk comes with a fully featured icon editor. So to access the icon editor, we select Edit Icons from the Options menu or press Ctrl J. The icon editor itself, a bit like PackShow, is a show. So you use it very much as you would use NeoDesk, even down to the fact that it has the same options. What we're going to do, first of all, is we've been dealing with hype files a lot, so I thought I'd create an icon for hype files. And I'm going to say, and it will become apparent, and you will understand that I am not an artist in any way, shape, or form. So how does this whole thing work? So icons are specified either by function or by file extension. So these ones by function at the top here are all of those to group are by function. So this is what's going to be the icon for floppy drives. This is the icon that's going to be for hard drives, RAM drives, clipboard. You guessed it. This is the one for folders by default. You can set a icon for a folder or create one very easily. So let's open up our created icon. The first thing we're going to want to do is tell it what type of file we're processing for. So it's star.hype. And we want to tell it what type of item this is a icon for. So you can match files, folders, or both. You've got lots of functionality in terms of clear data, clear mask, clear both, to rotate, to flip things horizontal, vertical, double height, half height. Things to create masks, which we'll come back onto in a moment. The current mode, draw means literally dots. Copy means you can do a rectangular area and copy it, move a rectangular area and move it. And letter we'll cover a bit later, but it allows you to specify where the drive letter goes on hard drive images and floppy drive images. Again, you got left, right mirroring, top, bottom mirroring, and four-way mirroring. That's not the same as, V flip, H flip, or rotate. Mirror is when you draw it, it will mirror it on those axes. Let's give you a quick example. If I say four-way mirror and I draw some lines, as you can see, it's doing a four-way mirroring. Turn that off. Finally, you can cut, copy, and paste the entire image, or cut a block, copy a block, and paste a block. So if you look at the image at the bottom, the things shown with an X are the inverse color. Things shown in a solid color are the solid color. Now, the solid color can be black or can be white. And if you notice, when the solid color is white, the mask color there is black, and vice very much the versa. But normally, if you concentrate on black as being the content, white takes care of itself, and then we'll deal with the masks a little bit after. Clear both. So I'm going to mask this now, and I'm going to say I want a blur mask, which should put it around the outside, like that. Now, it looks a bit hollow, and I don't like that, so I'm also going to ask it to mask internal. There we go. And now it looks like you would expect. So, in fact, that looks fine to me. So I'm going to say, now remember that's star.hype. So now we quit out of this tool. It should ask us if we want to save it, which we absolutely do. So now if we go into our hype file folder, yep, and we can highlight it, and I think that looks absolutely fine to me. Now what happens if you want to copy one? So say I want to make a ref, which is basically the same as that, ever so slightly different. So I'm going to go back into our icon editor. And we're going to create a new icon. I'm going to use the shortcut, Control I. Now what I can do is I can say, right, what I want you to do is copy data, masks, colors, and letter positions to the second one. So let's say OK to that. Now I have two that says star.hype, so it's removed the file extension because it knows you can't have two with the same name. This is going to be star.ref. Should be a fairly easy process of star.ref. Super. Let's save that. So, okay, hardly as Leonardo da Vinci, but showing you how to create one, a little bit about masks and stuff. Question is, do any of the apps come with icons? Because you would expect a modern app to come with an icon, and the answer is that yes, some of them did. So if you go and look in the gem folder at QED, there's a QED.resource, and that contains icons. So let's put them in, shall we? So now we start seeing more of the shell-based nature of the app. So we're going to navigate the C drive. We're going to go bin, gem QED. We're going to open our icons up. We'll open icons.resource, and then we'll just take these two and move them into here. Boom. And notice this one has a selected and unselected images that are different. Very cool. Why did I start looking into this? Well, when I was doing the original NeoDesk videos, and then I went on to do the CLI videos, one of the things that was said to be made available by Gribnif Software, the authors of NeoDesk and the CLI, was that they would give away their icon library. And I was super excited about this, and then it didn't appear. And there was a lot of to and froing on the Atari forums, and eventually somebody posted some up. It seems like these are as rare as that CLR disk. CLR, as rare as that CLI disk. And I was really excited about that. So let's have a look at that, shall we? So if we go into edit icons again, and I've got this stored on my D drive. And it's in there, and it's in NeoDesk 4. And they're in NIC files. This is a NIC file, so we could drag and drop stuff in. So let's have a look. And I had a look through these. They're all right. However, I would say that they were a bit meh. I've been so excited looking for them, and then it was just like, oh. So then I was thinking, well, maybe I'll start collecting some icons for myself. And I thought, okay, let's go get a piece of software that will allow us to organize some icons. And I found this thing called Icon Manager. This is Icon Manager 0.65, I think. You know what? This is what I was looking for from the original NeoDesk icons. These are really lovely and consistent. There's not many of them, but there is 100. So I started thinking, well, maybe I'll have a look around to see if I can find some more. And then I found a previous version of that app, which had been distributed with a lot more icons. I don't know if they got in trouble or they just wanted to cut the size of the library down to fit on a floppy disk. Now, this takes a long time to start up, but here's the previous version. And I don't know if you can see, but there's one heck of a lot of icons in here. And this is exactly what I was looking for. I don't actually think 100% of the icons that are in that first version of this that I showed are actually in the second version. Yeah, let's just do this. I want to show you how this works. So if I say, okay, I want to export that as a resource, and all the selected files will be exported. This is the exported RSC. I'm going to copy that, put it in my temp folder so I don't get the wrong file. And then we'll show you another bit of how things work. Yeah, this is a little bit more of a talky, doey video than my normal ones, but a lot of fun. And I'm going to stop in a minute and just enjoy setting some icons. Right, let's edit icons. So let's say I decide that I want that icon to be my floppy icon. Is it a floppy icon? I can't remember. Let's open it up and find out. It's a hard disk icon. So let's set that as our hard disk icon. Notice straight away that the hard disk image has changed up there. It's pretty neat, isn't it? I mentioned the drive letter placement. So if you go into the mode, which is letter, you get this black square, and you can decide where you want the drive letter to appear. I mean, you might decide that you want it to appear up there. You can see the drive letter has appeared there. I mean, to be honest, it was in the right place to start with, but I just want to show you that you can move it. Right, finally, we'll quit out and save that. We should get prompted. We're back, we've got our new hard drive image. Okay, so about 24 hours later, there has been things like a curry and a night out in between there. I didn't just spend my entire time grafting away at icons, but here's the before and here's the after. And I hope you'll agree it looks better. So let me take you around what I've done. So I've concentrated mostly on top level things. I changed the hard drive and floppy drive images. I've gone for a kind of a very, very black and white look. I tend to use mine on a monochrome monitor, so that fits. So going across accessories, we have a themed folder and themed accessories. None of these are disabled, but if they were, they would appear with an X striking them out. I'll show you that in auto file items because we have one that's disabled. In this particular XBoot set, we've added a generic icon for PRG files. We have a bespoke one for NVDI. These all came out of that icon set. That came with Icon Manager. We go bins over there, so we'll leave that for a second. We have a clipboard folder. We have our ETC folder, which has our guides. I've removed the amateur icons that I did. I'll replace them in a while with something better. We have our Geneva folder and our NeoDesk folder, and then temp. It's got a little trash can because that stuff's going to be deleted on a regular basis. And our XBoot folder. And finally, I put some generic icons in for sys files and inf files. If we look at the bin folder, we've got some font folder for BT fonts, which have font icons for font files. We have our control panel extensions, including disabled control panel extensions. The folder where we have the NeoDesk CLI, there's nothing really of interest in there, and the folder where we have all of our TTP files and TOS files. Under gem, it's just pretty much plain at this point. I haven't gone any further. I'm a bit concerned that if I start putting bespoke folders in and bespoke application icons for everything, the resource file is going to get larger, or the NIC file in NeoDesk's case. It's going to take up more memory. It could impact performance. So I'm trying to not go too mad on this, but you never know. I might carry on. We have a games folder, which has my high res, low res, and medium res games. Go into low res. This is where I stop. Now, what I could do, of course, to avoid using too much memory is I could make or add all of these with the extension of, say, .gam, and then create a rule for that just uses this folder icon, and then that would probably look nice, and that's only one rule. I do like things that hit many items with a single rule. Finally, I think I haven't mentioned it, gemsys. We have our font files, we have our sys files, and our inf files. That's as far as I took it. And what I'll try to do from now on as I modify and extend this hard drive image is I'll try and keep up with this and keep everything consistent. When I release this image, once I've got the ST guide system finished off and where I want it, I'll put the image up online, and then you'll be able to have a play with all of this. And if you do want to have a play with this, in the gem folder under Icon Manager, there is a folder called Huge that has the large icon set, Small that has the first icon set, the one with just 100 icons, and Prod, which is probably going to be gone by the time you look at this. So in this video, we have installed an AvServer, we have added a file selector dialog, and we've learned how to create, edit, manipulate icons, and we found ourselves a really nice icon set. So I hope you've enjoyed this video, but that's all for now. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you soon.